All right, guys, so I know that STAR is behind us, so we are getting back to vocabulary because vocabulary is just as important now as it was before STAR, because we are not doing any of this stuff for STAR. We're doing it for you and for your success and for you to be prepared for high school and beyond. And so we're going to continue working on vocabulary and picking it back up where we left off with list 8.19 and 8.20. So 10 new words for today. Our first word is neutral. Everybody say that? Neutral. Say it one more time. Neutral. This is an adjective, and the definition is not supporting either side of an argument, fight, or war, or not expressing strong feelings or emotions about something. So if people want the United States to keep out of the war, they want the U.S. to be neutral, not to be involved. Here's a sample sentence for you. My mom wanted to know if I preferred white rice or red rice for dinner, but since I like all kinds of rice, I was neutral. And there is a typo in your notes probably that says all kids of rice. Fix it so it says all kinds of rice. To change this as a part of speech, you can add the ly to make it neutrally. So since she went to both Texas A&M and the University of Texas, Paulette always dressed neutrally for any sporting events. And then neutrality. Switzerland is known for its policy of neutrality. So really quickly, go ahead and turn to a partner and think about a sports game that you feel pretty neutral about. There is a sentence stem there, so you say, I would feel neutral about a game between blank and blank because blank. Go ahead and share now. All right, very good. Let's come back together and go to our next word, which is melodramatic. Say that. Melodramatic. One more time. Melodramatic. This is an adjective that means emotional in a way that is very extreme and exaggerated. And so very theatrical or over emotional, just kind of over the top. They're extra, they're doing the most. That's what we're thinking about when we think about melodramatic. So Jane wanted to get out of taking today's quiz, so she began to cry hysterically. However, she was too melodramatic and the teacher didn't believe her. Parts of speech, we have melodrama and melodramatically. And I'm not going to read the sentences for you, but you have them there so you can see a model for how these parts of speech changes are used. For your check of understanding for melodramatic, these three girls for some reason are being very melodramatic. Go ahead and make up a sentence that would explain the melodrama. Turn to a partner and say, these girls are being melodramatic because, or if you think that they have a very good reason for it, you can say they are not being melodramatic. Next word, accusatory. Say that. Accusatory. Say it one more time. Accusatory. This is an adjective that means that you are accusing someone or blaming someone. Basically, you're saying it's their fault they did something. So pointing the finger at somebody else. I could tell from my sister's accusatory tone that she assumed I ate the last cookie. There's only one part of speech change here. You can make it into a verb and say accuse. So don't you dare accuse me of not working hard on my project. Now, for this check for understanding, I want you to practice some dialogue. Being a partner of two, partner one, you're going to ask your partner, where's my pencil? And try to use your best accusatory tone and voice. And then partner two, you're going to respond by saying, I didn't touch it, and I don't appreciate your accusatory tone. Go. All right, next word is cynical. And I just love the face of this girl, but she is showing a very cynical look because being cynical means that you believe that people are generally selfish and dishonest. So you do not think the best of people. You're kind of pessimistic, skeptical, suspicious of other people and their ideas. And so this little girl looks very cynical about Hillary Clinton. Here's a sample sentence for you. My friend Jorge is very cynical. Whenever someone does something nice for him, he assumes they want something in return. Parts of speech change, we have cynically, we have cynicism, and then we also have cynic. Cynic is the person who is cynical. And then there's some sentences there so you can see how each of those are used. Take a moment and look at this picture, and if you want, you can go back to the one with Hillary Clinton and explain why these are example of cynicism. You have 30 seconds. Go. Next word is abrasive. Everybody say that. Abrasive. One more time. Abrasive. This is an adjective that means very unpleasant or irritating. Think about sandpaper. Sandpaper is abrasive. So can a sponge, but a person can also be abrasive. The idea is it's kind of scratchy. It is, unpleasant. Rough might be another way to think about it. And so it could be, if you think about people, synonyms would be annoying, nasty, or rude. But also, if you're thinking about objects, then something that's abrasive can be rough. So you can also think of the word rough as a synonym. So Simon Cowell was the most abrasive judge on American Idol, hands down. He didn't care if what he had to say was rude or hurtful. He was just going to say it. He was going to be rude about it. For parts of speech changes, we have abrasively and we have abrasiveness. For your check for understanding, turn to your partner and explain why so many people find Donald Trump abrasive. You have a sentence for them to help you. Go ahead and begin. Go. And let's come back together for our next word, which is melancholy. Say it. Say it one more time. Melancholy. Melancholy. This is an adjective or a noun, so it can be used either way. And it basically means that you show sadness or you're just very unhappy. So this monkey's looking very melancholy about being trapped inside. And one of the things with parts of speech change is it can be melancholic, but these actually can be used interchangeably. So people can say melancholy or melancholic, and you're right either way. And so I've given you two different examples of how the same sentence is there, but it's using melancholy or melancholic. Think of something that you saw in a movie or read in a book recently that made you feel melancholy, and I want you to share that with your neighbor. Sentence stem is there on your paper and on the board. I felt melancholy when... Go. Next word is zealous. Say it. Zealous. Some people might say zealous, but it's generally zealous. But either way is fine. I mean, English sometimes is a language that can have many pronunciations. So zealous or zealous, either one is fine. It's an adjective that shows that you have strong feelings or strong support for a person or a cause. You're very dedicated. You're a fanatic. You're very passionate about something or someone. And so the detective was zealous about solving the crime, making it her personal mission to find criminals no matter how hard she had to work. Parts of speech change, we have zealously, we have zeal, which is the noun form, and then we have a zealot or zealot, depending again on your pronunciation. And so we have zeal as the noun form, zealously, zealot or zealot, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And then our vocab word is zealous. And then there are sentences for each of those. Something to note about the word zealot is it oftentimes has a negative connotation when you call someone a zealot. So I can say that I have a lot of zeal for something or I'm very zealous for something, and those can be positive. Usually when you call someone a zealot, you're saying it negatively because you're saying they're way over the top and in a negative way about something. Think about something that you're a pretty big fan of, so you're a zealous fan of, and I want you to share that with a neighbor. So I am a zealous fan of blank. All right, next word is establish. Say that. establish. One more time, establish. This is a verb that means to create something or to make something known. So it could be the way of like actually creating or just making sure people know something. So before we have our first meeting, we need to establish the ground rules. That's when we're creating the ground rules or making the rules known to people. Or she was well established in the music industry. That means she was well known in the music industry, not that she was well created. That's the reason why it can mean either created or well known. So to change the part of speech here, we just can make it into establishment. And that's the only part of speech change for establish. I want you to fix the sentence below. It says, before asking to be made team captain, Carly made a record of her trustworthiness by performing consistently and helping her teammates. Fix the sentence so it uses the word establish. How did you do? If you did it correctly, it should say, before being established as the team captain, Carly made a record, so on and so forth. If you did that, then great job. You did it perfectly. And now on to the word evident. Say it. Evident. Very good. This means to clear, like for something to be, evident means for something to be clear to the sight or the mind. So it's very clear, obvious to you, either visually or even just mentally. So it would be evident that someone forgot to shut the bathroom door if there's toilet paper everywhere and the cat kind of is running around with toilet paper or things like that. Part of speech change is an adverb to say evidently. And so, as you guys have proven over and over again, it is evidently hard for you to stay quiet since you're always talking when I do not want you to talk. Now, in this picture, it is evident that one of these students did not get enough sleep last night. Turn to your neighbor and explain which student did not get enough sleep. How do you know it is evident? There is a sentence stem on the board. Go. All right, next word is convey. Convey actually has two meanings. The first is to make something known to someone. So very similar actually to establish in a way where you're conveying knowledge or conveying information to somebody. The other is to take or to carry something from one place to another. So to convey my belongings or to convey the desk, those could be two different ways. So one is to make something known or the other version is to carry. Here are two sentences that show the different meanings of convey. So the expression on his face conveyed his feelings. So they're showing or making known his feelings to people. And then it is unusual to use a bike to convey cattle from the market to the farm to the market. And so that would be to transport or to take from one place to another. There's only one part of speech change, and that is conveyance. And this is only used for the second definition about transporting. So buses and cars are a form of conveyance. All right, here's another dialogue practice. Partner A, I want you to make a face that conveys that you're feeling melancholy. And then partner B, tell them whether or not they're successful. And so there's a sentence on the board. And maybe when you flip this time, maybe the other person conveys a different emotion. And then the other partner has to explain, like, what emotion did you convey? So you can say, I think you're conveying happiness, or I think you're conveying anger. But go ahead and practice. I'll give you a little bit more time this time. All right, next is embellish. Everybody say that. Embellish. This means to decorate something by adding special details or features, or to make something more attractive or more appealing. Think of exaggerating. That could be a form of embellishment, but also decorating and ornamenting something. So you would embellish a wedding cake because it needs to look awesome if you're getting married. But even if you're having a wonderful birthday, it would be hopefully embellished. And the part of speech change is embellishment. So some people like jackets and shirts with a lot of embellishment, but then also you can tell a story with tons of embellishments as well. What do you think it means to embellish writing? So if I ask you to embellish your writing, what would that mean? Turn to your partner and explain that now. Next word is portray. Say it. Portray. Very good. There's 3 definitions. It means to describe something, it means to play a character, or it means to show something in a painting or a book. And they all have to do with basically showing or making known through either acting, images, or description. And something to keep in mind is that definition 2 really just means to like act in a play. So Denzel Washington portrayed Malcolm X in the movie Malcolm X. And then definition 3 usually is to show a picture of something familiar. So if you're drawing in a book, that might portray a character in a book, and that's just a picture. And then the third one is to describe something. So here are 3 different sentences, and they using all 3 definitions, so you have a good idea of like what I mean by portrayal or portray in each one. Parts of speech change. Portrayal is one of them, and then portrayer is another version. So that's the person. So although many kids recognize Daniel Craig as James Bond, the original portrayer of 007 was actually Sean Connery, who's an excellent actor even today. So think about how teens are portrayed on TV. Oftentimes, it's in an untrustworthy manner. And so just tell your neighbor how you feel about that. So when teens are portrayed as untrustworthy on TV, I feel blank. Go. Next word is illuminate. Say it. Illuminate. This means to brighten or light up. It could also mean to clarify or explain depending on how you're using something. So it could either to give light. So when we turn on the light, we're illuminating the room, or it could be making something clear or easy to understand. So as I'm going through this PowerPoint, it's to illuminate you and help you better understand these vocabulary words. So here are two different sentences that show both definitions, so you have a good idea of what illuminate means in both contexts. Parts of speech change is illumination or illuminated, and so here are the sentences that go along with it. Reading a book always provides some illumination, and then even though there was a power outage, the streets were illuminated by the bright moon. What happens when you try to read in a poorly illuminated room? Turn to your neighbor and explain what would happen using the word illuminated. Go. And that's all of our words for this week. And so here's how you're going to spend the rest of the time. You have 2 ways that you're going to practice. First is to go back through every single one of the words and write a sentence and draw a picture for each vocabulary word. So you should have your own sentence and you should have your own picture. Your sentence can use any part of speech that you would like, or if you want to push yourself, use multiple different parts of speech so that you're getting as much practice as possible. And then I've actually attached a practice vocab quiz, which is going to be very similar to the quiz that you're going to be taking next week. And so if you go through this and practice, then you should probably do a pretty good job on your quiz next week, Wednesday. I've left the answer key for the substitute, and so you can check your answers when you are done. Have fun with your new vocabulary words.